Everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Top Tier Entertainment Podcast. Here it's Luca back with Frank, my dad.
Yep.
And we're gonna be frank about the Leafs today. No, but yeah, obviously yesterday was a huge trade deadline day. I think probably the biggest trades I've ever seen in a trade deadline
Well,
since I was a kid.
there was some
Probably.
shockers for sure,
Yeah, no, there
especially
was
at
some
the end.
huge
Yeah.
trades, huge trades.
Yeah.
We'll get into it. Like you said, let's talk about what happened at the end there.
Yeah.
Marchand being traded to the Florida Panthers.
Yeah.
Watching that, yesterday there were some big stars on the board, and normally in a trade deadline, you see maybe one of them go and all of them stay, or it seemed like yesterday all the big fish that were out there were traded,
Yeah.
and Marchand being the biggest surprise to us, going to Florida.
Yeah, it was definitely a shock at the end there
Yeah.
when we all saw that. No one was expecting Marchand, I guess. Well, I guess there was some rumors, but I don't think no one
Yeah.
ever really thought it was going to get to that point where it was going to go through. So
I mean, even if he got traded,
yeah,
I was not expecting him to go to the
And-
Panthers
well, or in the East,
or
at
in the
least.
East, yeah,
Yeah.
but especially the Panthers. Like
Yeah.
the trade to me, I made a few videos on it. Just
Yeah.
didn't make any sense. Like
It's pretty upsetting for Leaf fans. I mean,
Yeah,
we've been
yeah.
trying to get away from Marchand for years, and we thought, hey, this might be the year. Boston's not going to make it. We're going to get away from Marchand, and here we go. He's now a Florida Panther, so we're
I think this was the worst possible situation for the
yeah
Leafs for him.
for sure.
Like
Sure. If he wasn't going to be a Leaf,
this is the worst possible
yeah,
situation.
exactly.
He just went to the
Yeah.
team that fits the rattiest team he could go to. He's a
Well-
rat, and he went to the rattiest team that he could go to, and now we're gonna have to deal with a line of Kachuk, Bennett, and Marchand most likely, the three biggest rats
and
in the NHL.
and the worst thing is that they really didn't give up much
No,
to
they-
get him. Yeah,
But I talked about it yesterday. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I wanted to know because it took a while for it actually to be reported for it to be confirmed and reported what went Boston's way, and it's only a second round conditional pick.
well, it could turn into a first round pick if Florida wins 2 rounds or at least
And Marchand
And
has to play in 50%.
percent of those games. Yeah, so
Which at this rate,
it's
most likely is going to happen.
It's a good possibility for sure.
They're probably going to win the cup again, but
Well, I mean, the good thing is if the Leafs can stay in first place, which we're all hoping,
Yeah.
it would be a Florida Tampa most likely matchup. first
which would
round.
be
be-
the
would
Leafs
be-
really need
They really
need to
stay
grind
in
their
first,
gears and
yeah.
make sure they get that
For
first place.
sure.
They're a little bit like Marchand, I believe, is on LTIR or he's injured, and I don't know,
Yeah.
week to week.
Yeah.
And Kachuk is on LTIR, meaning if he
Yeah.
comes back, it probably won't be to the playoffs.
Yeah, it
Or
sounds like it anyway.
At least that's what it looks like. So
Yeah.
the only good thing is those guys won't have that much time to gel together if they do play before the playoffs.
Yeah.
And hopefully Florida stinks it up a bit and can probably get either third or second, and we can lock down first. But
yeah,
it's going to be
it's
a
gonna
tight
be a
race,
tough.
so
It's gonna be very tough.
we
yeah.
got 43 days
I
left.
think next week we do play the Panthers too.
we play
so,
them 3 more times this season.
so it's
and
going to be some
Yeah.
pretty huge games coming
we
up.
got to make sure if we want that first place lockdown, we got to beat them in those 3 games, or at
100%,
least
yeah.
win 2 of the 3.
100%. Yeah, they absolutely have to play, their top game for
Yeah.
sure.
But-
I mean, going on that, I mean, the Leafs did make some moves. They did.
They did.
I would say they got a lot better.
Yeah. If that didn't happen,
Yeah.
I would have been extremely
Well-
excited of what happened yesterday. Like,
Well, you know what? Nothing happened till like
Yeah.
the right at the end. So it was like I know they were all in on the Ratman trade, right? So
the Leafs.
the Leafs, yeah.
That was reported as a shock too. That came
Yeah.
out by Kyprios a couple hours after the
Yeah.
deadline. That the Leafs were willing. I think they were going to give up Minton, Cowan, and 2 firsts for Rantanen.
Yes.
And to me, that's a shock. It's almost like
Well,
and-
I mean, it would have been great to have him, obviously.
I would have loved.
I
Rantanen,
mean, I would have made that deal if I was the Leafs. I know it's your future that you're mortgaging,
but,
but
well, we're all in. We need to win.
but
yeah.
you know what? If Ratnan was on that team, just imagine,
Yeah.
having Marner, Ratnan, Matthews. It's
Yeah.
just on paper the team would have been so much better up front.
And that was a bigger, honestly, in my opinion. What did Carolina traded him to Dallas, and they got Stankoven and I think they got Stankoven in 2 firsts, or Stankoven in first and 2 thirds. But I think the deal the Leafs were giving Carolina was a little bit better. I think the only thing
Well, I heard that the only reason why they didn't trade
Yeah.
the Leafs is they didn't want to face.
they didn't want to face him,
They didn't want to
which,
face Rantanen
which
again
makes
in the
sense. But
playoffs.
to be honest,
Yeah,
you're talking about the Leafs here, who
yeah. Well,
You know,
I
they
mean,
have- they have
I
a
mean,
really good
I
team.
could see their point, right?
But
if
yeah.
you're going to trade them, and you got a team in the West and a team in the East, you're probably going to send them to the West, right? So,
I mean, the only chance now, if from the looks of it and the way things are going, if the Leafs were to play Carolina, it would have to be a conference final. And
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't think that Carolina team is good enough to make it right now.
yeah, I mean, I like the moves the Leafs did. Besides, I mean, obviously we can get Rantanen, but I mean, I like the fact that they did shore up the backside.
Yeah, well, they fixed their two needs.
Yeah,
They got a third line center,
Yeah.
which we've been talking about all season is what we need. And they were linked to Lawton. I was expecting him for the last week basically to come to Toronto.
yeah.
They've been rumored for a while. And the big shock to me was Carlo. I didn't expect that.
I think he's
Yeah.
gonna be he's a great defenseman.
He's a great, yeah.
Big boy, right? He can
He's like
move some
6'5",
Yeah, block shots.
228,
He blocks shots
and
as well.
he produces offensively as well. But he is more of a defensive player, and
Yeah.
he even said in the interviews yesterday what he does bring is just the defensive game. He says I have a really good defensive game. He
Yeah.
knows.
I mean, I like the way if we look at the Leafs this year on the backside with the defense that they have and the two goalies, you got to say that I think that's the best they've ever been
100%.
on that end, right?
And
now,
I think it's also the style of play.
Yeah.
They're,
now the only thing I'm really truly worried about is with the Leafs is that their power play hasn't clicked.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that's the only fear I have in the playoffs. You need to have a good power play. Besides having, your goalie's number one. You need a great goalie during the playoffs.
which they've been getting
right.
this year. That hasn't been an issue, and knock on wood,
Knock
it's
on
not an
wood.
issue.
But
With the power play, you're
that
right.
power play is the
It's
only thing
brutal.
that scares me. I mean, if they can get that going, in the last month or so, and can get that really going into the playoffs, I think this team has a good chance of moving on if they have.
I've been saying it for years. This team is built. On paper, they should be like
Yeah.
going to the finals every year, or at least
Yeah.
the conference finals every year. It doesn't happen, but this year, there's a different. They're playing a different style of hockey. They're a little more physical.
They're bigger, right?
They're big, and they look like they're going through more adversity better.
Yeah.
Like you'll see them in a game come back, or they'll have a lead and they won't blow it. Like we talked about it last podcast,
Yeah.
but their style of play and Berube's style of play has been better, and it's more for playoff style.
I'm just a little afraid that they offended Marner a little bit.
Let's talk about
We'll
that.
talk about that
Let's
a little
bring
bit.
that up.
Like, I mean, I'm yeah. Go ahead.
So I just read something literally like 15 minutes before we shot this. I think it just came out that apparently the Leafs asked Marner to move his no trade clause yesterday, and he refused.
Mhm.
So to me, it was almost like maybe they're having issues making a deal with Marner. There's something we don't know. I think personally,
yeah.
it's like a pressure situation. Like,
Well, it could be that they just want to, show his agent and say that, hey, you're not our only option, maybe.
especially when Rantanen was on the table.
Yeah,
which is a
exactly.
very similar style
Yeah.
to Marner.
Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe there is something to this. I have no idea. I mean,
I hope not.
they were willing to go all in, right? So obviously, if they would have signed him, I think Marner, there was no chance of signing Marner in the summer, right?
Yeah,
so,
if they signed Rantanen,
it was over.
It was almost like
Yeah.
Marner, and
Yeah.
and I heard that's why I almost didn't believe when Kiprio said that.
Yeah.
He said they were offering Rantanen to. I thought if they were gonna trade, maybe it'll be a temporary thing. You pick
Yeah.
Marner or Rantanen, you pick one, and one of them goes.
Right.
And most likely it would have been Rantanen going because
Yeah.
he didn't want to pay taxes here. Marner lived his whole life in Toronto, but then I hear there's no trade clause, and also the Leafs were offering him 13 to 14 million a year to
Yeah.
Rantanen.
So I don't know what
I don't know what's
I don't
going
know
on
what
there.
I'm not sure what. Obviously, they know something we don't. Maybe there's maybe they were asking above and beyond that. It could be if they're offering Rantanen 13 million. What is Marner?
That's exactly
What is Marner asking?
Like if they were willing to offer Rantanen 13 to 14 million dollars,
Yeah.
and they were gonna trade, they were gonna sign and trade basically.
Yeah.
Sign and keep. I don't understand. That
unless
means Marner's
Marner-
probably asking for like,
well, Marner's
more than
cap,
that. He
yeah,
has to be.
Marner's cap must be asking for more. I don't know.
which
I mean,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
To me, I'm sorry. You got Matthews making 13 and a half. Okay,
Yeah.
obviously I think Marner this season has been one of our best Leafs, and I've been producing a little bit more than Matthews, but you can't ask for more than
I don't know. I mean,
your captain, your star player.
At some point, I feel like someone has to sacrifice a little bit. I'm not saying.
Yeah, and we've been saying this.
Nylander, in my opinion, has sacrificed his first contract and his second contract, right?
Well, if exactly,
right?
Exactly.
I mean, even Matthews, like, I mean, he's a great player. He should have, I don't know, but if you guys they want to win the Stanley Cup, they want to add players. You heard Matthews yesterday or 2 days ago in an interview saying, "Oh, we would like some help,"
Oh, and wanting more.
But how are they supposed to do that if they're so tight to the cap, right? I mean,
even with the cap going up, right? We could offer Marner a little bit more, but if you're asking for more than 12, 13, like.
Yeah, you got to, obviously they always go by percentage of the cap, but at the same time, like, you can't be asking for, like, I could see that being close to what Matthews, maybe a little less than what Matthews is making, which they were,
I say offer Marner 12 and a half, and that's a fair deal. What you're 1 million, you're 1 million more than Nylander, and 1 million less than Matthews, exactly right in the middle, which is where he is on this team.
Where they are, kind of where they fall right now, or where they fell before these contract renewals, right?
Yeah.
Marner was always in the middle. Matthews was,
yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, really, we're talking about, 500,000, let's say, or.
Exactly. I'd rather pay the man 500,000 than let him walk. But at this point, I don't know what's going on.
I don't. Anyway.
This is all speculation, right? We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but it just scares me a little bit.
It's a little
seeing
scary.
What happened
it's a little scary.
That means there's like
something going on.
They're not close to a deal.
Or they're not comfortable.
Either Trey Living did this because there's a serious issue and they were looking for an option to replace Marner, or he did that to just basically put some pressure on the agent, put some pressure on Marner, and get a deal signed, and maybe get a little bit more value for your buck.
Yeah.
And if that was the case, I like that move by Trey Living, putting that pressure.
Putting some pressure, maybe.
If that's not the case, I'm worried, right?
Yeah,
but
I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, I think the Leafs did well yesterday.
They did. It was tainted, like I said, it was tainted by that Marchand deal.
At the end,
That happened before we got Carlo.
Everyone was really happy, and then you hear Marchand just get straighted, and it was like,
we were happy, and I knew we weren't done, right? I was expecting 3:00 for us to trade for a defenseman. I was really thinking that I was shocked they actually didn't package Lawton and Ristolainen together. I thought that was gonna go. I think Philly
would you have liked that better than Carlo?
No. I'm a big fan of Ristolainen. I think Carlo brings a little bit more to the offensive side than Ristolainen does, and he's a little bit more of a I can't find the words here, but he's more system.
Right.
Like, he just fits better in a system.
Yeah, he probably.
Ristolainen, I think, has a style of play that's so unique.
Yeah.
I think Carlo can fix his
style. I'm not sure. Does Carlo play on the power play at all?
I am not too sure. I have to look.
Yeah, I haven't looked at.
But I think he could. I think he could.
Good. Yeah.
He's in the playoffs. He scored against the Leafs.
We need someone to hit the net. I mean,
yeah.
You agree? We don't have any defenseman that can hit the net. I just want one guy to be able to sit on that power play and just hammer some pucks on the net.
Yeah.
I know they've been trying, playing, I think, Marner at the point a little bit, and they've, shifted everything around.
Well, the problem is we have a defenseman on the first, and on the first unit we have Riley, and he's not been so super great this year on the power play. And then we would put OEL, but it seems like our defenseman we haven't found one that just fits that power play. I think it's just the power play in general. I don't think anyone fits the system the way
I don't get
playing.
It, man. I just don't understand.
It's been an issue for the last 2 years.
Yeah, and we've got the firepower, but it just never clicks for some reason. I don't know if they're too cutesy or what it is, but
I can't.
I just hope they can shore that up. If they can shore that up,
fix that.
Yeah, 100%.
They really need to fix that. I think it's the passing back constantly. Now people know, okay, Marner's having in the neutral zone. Someone's behind him. Get your D line ready because it's going back, and now you have some time to prepare for the attack coming. And then they just pass it too much. They don't even cycle it properly. Like, things need to be fixed.
Yeah, for sure.
And I hope Carlo. I think he can. Yes, like I said, he scored some goals against the Leafs in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Some big goals in the playoffs, and he does push up. He is more defensive, but he does bring that offensive when you need it. When it's really needed, he can be there. So, who knows? We'll have to see. I don't know. Leafs play Colorado tonight.
Yeah,
we'll see how they.
It's gonna be a big game. I think
it's gonna be a big game.
Big
I think both teams made some big moves. Like Colorado,
The other shocker I was gonna say is Edmonton didn't do anything yesterday, really.
Oh yeah, yeah, we're gonna get into that. Edmonton. So I read too. They made a push actually for Rantanen.
Yeah.
They made a big push, and apparently Carolina, they just didn't have the pieces to trade Carolina.
Yeah.
Which makes
sense. Well, they didn't want to give up. I don't think anybody off the roster. If you're adding him.
Yeah.
I mean,
it would have to be somewhat like the thing is, I don't think Edmonton has those. Like, you know how we have the Robertsons, the Mintons accounts. I don't think Edmonton has those types of players.
Yeah.
Or even someone in their roster that's young enough
that they can.
They
wanted someone that they can actually throw into the lineup and be a start. Like
that's what Carolina.
They wanted like Carolina wanted Knives, right? So that was their first choice.
And I don't blame Carolina. They gave up Nietzsche's, who was in their lineup, on their top line, and two firsts for it's for them to just not be able to come across the deal.
Yeah, I don't understand that whole thing was just a mess. From the beginning.
That's what I'm saying. This trade deadline.
It was a little crazy.
It was crazy what's going on.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
that Rantanen just sums up what happened.
Yeah.
The Marchand deal.
And the other, they retained salary, I think, didn't they, for Marchand? I think
50%.
50%.
I wanted to touch back upon this a little bit here.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. I think what happened was Boston went to Marchand. You know, they were looking to deal him. It looks like, you know, they're not going anywhere.
Well, they blew up the team.
They blew up the team,
basically.
And
for picks and
I couldn't be happier that they finally are done. It looks like, and watching my Instagram, seeing Grinelli, a bunch of big Boston fans just losing their minds yesterday. They're done. They're pissed with their GM. They want Sweeney out. I've been seeing Sweeney needs to go. Sweeney needs to go. So clearly, Boston fans aren't happy about this.
Yeah. But there are, if you look all over Instagram and TikTok, all the fans are super upset.
They're mad. I don't think it was enough of a return from Marchand.
It's crazy. Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, everything was so expensive yesterday.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, the first rounds were going for like.
We gave up a first round pretty much for Lawton.
But that was the whole day was like that. First round's going all over the place for. Mediocre players. I wouldn't say they're, like.
But third line players. Third
line players.
Guys that are not going to be in your top six or are there as a piece to add on. Like Marchand is a guy that's going in your top six. He's
for sure
a playoff performer.
Yeah, for sure. I don't.
What doesn't make sense to me.
Maybe because he was injured. I don't know if that's part of it. Maybe.
I think it's it's cheaper because he's injured, and I think I heard they were just far from a deal.
Right.
So they probably knew Marchand was going to walk.
Yeah.
And they just took whatever they could.
Because
it happened right at the end.
Yeah.
Right? Like.
Yeah. Unless they were probably talking all day to see if they can extend.
And I think it's more of a respect thing to Marchand. He's been on the team for 18
for sure.
years.
I'm pretty sure they asked him where he wanted to go.
They probably had a bunch of deals lined up, and they said, Marchand, where do you want to go? And to Marchand, why wouldn't he want to go on a team where he's going to fit right into that system as a rat? They're a rat team. That's their style of play. They're a little bit of a dirtier team, and he would fit perfectly in that system.
I just don't know.
Stanley Cup defending champions.
But did they get too ratty? You know what I mean? Like, is it like
you're thinking it's gonna work against them?
It could. Like, I don't know.
It does.
I don't know, but I'm saying, like, yes, it's great to have toughness in the playoffs, but maybe there's just a little bit too much, right? I don't know. Like, how about if you start getting a bunch of penalties and having this whole
The thing is though, like, when the playoffs come around, especially the last few years, they've been letting
a lot go. Yeah,
like back when it was the Kadri days, they weren't. Of course, when the Leafs had those ratty guys, they weren't letting things go. Now it seems like the last few years, it has been, and
we'll see. I
Bennett
guess
punched Marchand. Did you see that clip?
Yeah, for sure.
That was let go. The Bennett throwing knives down is let go. I think the team is. It's not the NHL. I think the NHL in general has been eased up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Florida's going to be tough. I mean,
they're going to be. I think they're the team to beat.
That's why we gotta make sure. But we're just hoping that the Leafs stay in first, avoid this.
Yeah,
right?
They have to.
Avoid. Well, any of the Tampa's on a run.
But to me, they're on a run, and they do have that experience. That coach has won.
So if they can play each other and one of them eliminates each other,
that's the best.
Beats each other up and hurts each other, it'd be great. Like,
we just have to. The Leafs just have to. They have to win. They have to win, and they the only thing
they got to find the way.
You can't even. What's the word? Look past those wild card teams like the Senators.
No.
The Senators are. I don't want to play the Senators. The Leafs always lose to the Senators.
Yeah, it's going to be.
And they got better.
Regardless who you play, it's going to be tough. But
Yeah, I'd rather
if
not
I-
play Florida.
but if I'm going to choose a team, it's not going to be the Florida Panthers
Yeah.
or even Tampa at this point. I mean, we've had some luck with Tampa, but
I think we could beat Tampa.
I still think they're on
but-
a little bit of a heater right now, and it can get scary, right? They're going into
Yeah.
they're going into the stretch here, and they've been playing really really well. They made some moves yesterday as well.
They made some moves. They brought Yanni Gord, and they brought Yanni Gord, who used to be on Tampa, and they
Yeah.
won the cup with Tampa.
hmm
And I think Bjorkstrand, I believe it's Bjorkstrand. We have to look into it, but it was Yanni Gord for sure. They got better. Tampa got better.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
good thing is, I think the Leafs decided they had to make those moves because you see,
at some point, like when we were looking at the day, the East seemed to had there was no moves in the East, and then at the end it seems like there was a couple of them.
yeah, the moves were like the West or.
Yeah.
Yesterday it was a weird day. Like things weren't happening till the end. It
Right
seemed
at the
like.
end, yeah.
Like we heard the night before on Thursday, Rantanen was most likely
Yeah.
going to Dallas. You kind of knew that was
There
in
was
the
something
works.
being worked out there.
But then you heard at the night too that Marchand was on the table. But
Yeah.
I'm looking at that like they're probably just looking at their options, and then it just
Just happened right at the
right
end.
at 3:00,
3:00,
just
actually,
everything.
They had to actually make sure that it actually went through. I think at the end.
Yeah, and Elliott didn't confirm it.
Yeah, right
So-
till later. Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah, I mean that pretty much that wraps up. Or one thing too, we didn't talk about Winnipeg.
Oh,
So
Winnipeg, yeah.
I want to talk about a few teams here that Dallas and Winnipeg are looking like the teams to beat in the West, and they
Mhm.
just got a lot better yesterday. Dallas getting Rantanen, I think he's going to fit their system a little bit better than Carolina.
for
Obviously,
sure. Yeah.
Obviously, a great
It's
player.
Carolina
Cup.
plays a different style, right? Dallas is more
Yeah,
of that.
Carolina has a weird style of hockey.
Yeah.
They have their own style. They have a unique style compared to anyone in the league. I think Dallas is a very offensive heavy style of play. You know what? The one thing about Dallas though is they don't really have amazing centers, but their wings are really good. They
Yeah.
got Robertson, now Rantanen. They have Wyatt Johnson. They just signed. They did trade Stankoven to Carolina, but they had to get rid of one of those guys.
They have to, yeah.
But they look, and Ottinger is a great goalie. And that's one thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad. I'm glad he went to the West. If he wasn't gonna, I mean, if the Leafs weren't getting him,
Yeah.
let him go to the West.
That's what I was hoping would happen to
Let
Marchand
those-
too.
Yeah,
It didn't,
it
but-
didn't. Yeah, so let's hope that Dallas and Colorado and all those teams beat up on each other at the end. And who knows, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's when you get to the end of the run there, when you're into the conference final and a final, when you start crossing over, in the finals, there's so many injuries. There's so many things that could
you're right.
happen. Things change, right?
That's why
so
depth is
depth is
important.
important, right? So let's see what happens. I mean, we don't know yet. I mean, obviously we're gonna have our own battles in the East.
Yeah, the East is going to be, or especially the Atlantic.
Yeah.
That's up. That's a coin. It's a coin toss.
It's
Like
a coin toss.
All three of the Leafs. We've
could
been
be-
talking about podcasts.
It could be any three of those can
Win.
Yeah. So let's hope it's the Leafs this year that gets through. And
I'm not gonna lie to you. I was super confident all day.
Yeah.
The whole last few weeks, I've been really liking how we are looking, and I like the moves we made. And then when that Marchand deal happened, I folded. And you can see the videos. I was clearly upset. I was mad. I was mad at Boston
the
too.
things that beat the Leafs last year, and yes, they weren't as tough as they are this year. Let's say as big as they were.
Yeah.
But I feel like if our goaltending can stay healthy, that's something we didn't have in the past.
We never had. You're right.
Right. It's going to make a big difference, in my opinion. So, maybe it'll get them over that hump. I don't know, but goaltending is very important, right? So that's the main thing. So if those guys can stay healthy and keep playing the way they're playing, and we, now that we have I think one of the best defensive cores in the East, I would say.
I agree with you there. I
Right?
agree. Yeah.
I don't see any holes anywhere really now. I
No,
think-
and we did get rid of our holes a little bit. Like we got Carlo, and we
Yeah.
got rid of Timmins, and
Yeah.
and you know what I like even when we're dealing with some injuries, right? Tanev is out on the LTIR for a
Mhm.
bit. McCabe hasn't really been fully healthy this year either.
Mhm.
If those guys can get healthy for the playoffs, we don't really have holes.
And Riley if Riley could come back even to like
yeah, like
playoff Riley.
yeah.
Like,
And I'm confident he will.
Yeah.
Because he's the type of guy, right? He hasn't had the greatest season, but I still trust him.
He could turn around.
He can turn around. He has it in him, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not worried. And even like the guys that on the decor that have had to step up, like Myers, to me I've been really liking his
Yeah.
style of play.
He's going to be a depth defenseman,
Yeah.
right? Anyone who gets hurt, he can step in.
And even the way Timmins, like before we traded him,
Yeah, he
Timmins,
was okay.
Timmins was good too. Like
And
I think it's just the style.
Remember, we
Oh, I forgot about Benny.
still got Benny, right?
Yeah.
Benoit's there. I mean, he's
Love
been,
Benoit. I've always loved Benoit.
Yeah. So and he's actually played well in the playoffs too. Tough
Yeah.
guy, tough. You know.
I think it's just
made
that
some
Trey
big
Living
hits.
style. I think
Yeah.
he likes those tall, bigger defensemen that can block shots,
Yeah.
hit. And
And
now
that's
we have all of them.
Well, Carlos does that, right? He's
Carlo, yeah.
yeah,
He's
Carlo.
huge. Yeah.
He blocks shots. He's a big blocker.
Yeah.
And now with Tanev and him blocking shots, it's gonna be it'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I think tonight, we'll just get into that. Tonight will be a test. We'll see how Carlo and Lawton fit. Obviously, it's gonna be game one. You know, who knows what's gonna happen, but we'll see. We have, I believe, 43 days left to the playoffs, 20 or so games. I don't know exactly how many games left. We'll see how they fit, and we'll see how the other teams fit. I hope Florida go down a little bit of a drain, and you know, we can win and secure first, and we'll see how it goes.
We still have, I believe, a game in hand, right? So
we still have a game in hand, yeah.
we have a game in hand, and we do play them next week.
We play them 3 more times too this season,
Yeah.
so we do need to win those games.
So
and
those
that should secure.
games are going to be huge,
Yeah.
right? The game in hand is huge now, and when we play them, those are going to be huge, right? So let's see what happens. Those are 4-point games, right? So let's see what happens there.
Yeah. I think we covered.
Pretty
I think
much.
we covered everything. You know,
Yeah.
we covered everything. So, thanks for watching. We'll catch you. We'll probably have a video next week. I wanna make another one after a few of these games at least.
Yeah, then
see how
we can see where the Leafs kind of sit in the standings at that point,
Yeah.
and see how these new guys are panning out. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We'll catch you later. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.